If your team got guaranteed money, tell them call me.
Whoop. Make me say, my.
I done been around the world.
Yeah, I was made for this.
Player Performance with J.A. Cavalier.
Welcome to NFL Player Performance, Week 9, 2024. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week. 14 games on the card, official plays for 12 of them. Big games this week featured Dallas at Atlanta, Miami at Buffalo, Chargers at Cleveland, and a 425 special Detroit at Green Bay, where J.A. Cavalier on vacation gives us a hot take and some life wisdom. I'm your guest host for the week, The Shark. As I mentioned, J.A. Cavalier on the show with Fire, Downtown Junior Brown, Luke Shuey the Prop Master, and Coach Rick. Before the show, make sure to head on over to ylose.com, ylose.com for VIP packages, parlays, and top plays. Make sure you drop a like or a comment in the chat below this video. Thumbs up. It helps to grow the channel, and we want to talk to you guys directly. Now let's get into a Week 8 recap with Tessa Hall and all the plays to ensue. Let's dominate this card. We appreciate you guys. Let's go.
Back it up.
One more time.
All right, let's see that again.
Here's your NFL Week 8 recap. The Rams might be back. Kupp and Puka are like natural steroids for Matt Stafford. The Jags can't even beat a Malik Willis Packers team. Fire the whole staff. Tua can't talk coherently or win an easy game at home. A lowly Pats team may have just ended the Aaron Rodgers hope in New York. Jameis Winston can't spell his last name without win. Browns shocked the Ravens. Cincy is washed. Philly had their way with him last week. Anthony Richardson benched himself. Colts fans are dying for Flacco. Detroit should just rest their guys until the Super Bowl. This is getting out of hand. Kirk Cousins sees the Bucs on the schedule and becomes prime Joe Montana. I never thought I'd say this, but the Saints desperately need Derek Carr back. The Seahawks allowed an opposing fan base to take over Lumen Field. Congrats, Bill Mafia. Jaden Daniels, miracle. No other notes. Keep doing your thing, Washington. You didn't really think KC would spoil a perfect season because of the Raiders, right? Bo Nix might just be legit. Denver continues to cruise. George Kittle didn't even need his F Dallas shirt to dominate the Cowboys. If we have to watch the Giants one more time in primetime, we revolt. Daniel Jones is must-turn-off TV. That's your NFL recap Week 8. Cowboys versus Falcons.
Cowboys at Falcons, Week 9 Sunday, NFC football, out of division. Dallas off an excruciating loss at San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. Road sequence at a hot Atlanta team. Junior has taken notice of this. An official play, Atlanta -2.5.
Yeah, I feel like Atlanta in this game is kind of set up to win here for a couple of reasons. Obviously, they're a much better home team, and they're a team that is built to run the ball, but went out and got a quarterback that can complement that outstanding run game. So even though statistically they don't look like they run the ball as well, I think that it has a lot more to do with the fact that they have an NFL caliber quarterback as opposed to Desmond Ridder, which is what they had last year. Now, I say all of that to say the Cowboys, I've been leaning on EPA per play as a metric a lot more over the years because I understand it a little bit more. And if you look at the Cowboys' run defense in terms of EPA per play, they're so bad that there's like the worst team, and then you drop way down, and then you'll find the Dallas Cowboys in like historically bad territory. So I just feel like the Falcons will be able to control the game on the ground, and if Dallas tries to stack the box, they have a quarterback and they have receivers that can go downfield. So the only thing I would say, if you're going to tail me on this play, I am concerned by the fact that the Falcons are really bad at rushing the passer. And when Dak has time, he's usually more successful. So I do have a heavy lean to the over as well. I just need to do more research before I make that one official.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. You've seen Dallas on the road, particularly last week, giving up a ton of points. This is going to be your classic Kirk Cousins special, which at this point in his career, dating back to Minnesota days, of course, now in Atlanta, back and forth, high-scoring games. Junior liking officially Atlanta at -2.5, and we do think the over has access as well.
Dolphins versus Bills.
Dolphins at Bills, 1 o'clock, Orchard Park, New York. A rematch of Week 2, Thursday Night Football. Buffalo blew them out. Tua got injured. Tua is back, to the surprise of many, including myself. And Luke the Prop Master is back, to the surprise of nobody. Luke has a prop. He also has a giveaway, ride or die giveaway from last week. Luke, talk to us on both.
Yeah, let's do it. This is a good game to hype up. I think there's so many storylines outside of just the game itself. But let's start with last week's giveaway. If you guys remember, those of you who tuned in, my prop or ride or die of the week was Dalton Kincaid under 42.5 receiving yards. Jay shit on it a little bit, but it still won. We still cashed, and he still placed the bet. So we got to get $200 to someone in the crowd. And I went fair this week. I went with the most liked comment. So the winner is Francisco Mendoza 3654. You're getting $200 from us. Again, that's Francisco Mendoza 3654. But let me break down the prop this week. So we are sticking with the Bills, but I'm actually going with Josh Allen this week, and I like his rushing yards total. The line is sitting at 29.5, a little bit lower than it has been all year because he hasn't been needing to run as much. And if you look at game 1 against Miami this year, he didn't have to do anything. Tua got hurt. Bills scored 2 touchdowns immediately. It was an abomination of a game. Terrible Thursday night game. He had 2 carries for 2 yards. So he's going to go under here, right? I don't think so. I think he goes over. I think Allen likes to scramble, and this game should be more competitive. Look at his one game against Miami at the end of last year. He ran 15 times for 67 yards. If he does even half that, we're covering here. I see his ability to scramble against this Miami defense as a spot to take advantage of. We're going over 29.5 rushing yards. What do you got here, Sharky? You like it?
I do. You said in the first game he only had how many yards? 4?
Two rushes for 2 yards, so nothing.
And that's the beauty of it. You're buying low on really one of his worst performances running the ball probably in his career. Of course, you guys remember this guy coming from Wyoming in college to Buffalo. People didn't know what to make of him. I remember his first season, a very specific highlight of him running over, hurdling a defender in Minnesota. At that point, people knew Josh Allen was the guy. Luke knows he's the guy as well. Over 29.5 rush yards in this Week 9 matchup.
Raiders versus Bengals.
Raiders visiting the Bengals on this Week 9 Sunday. Out of division football in the AFC. We got Coach here. Coach knows ball, and he knows Gardner Minshew likes to travel on the road in this division, and he knows the Bengals have been terrible at home, taking a road team at +7.5.
Yeah, so, we've asked if the real Slim Shady would please stand up. Burrow, he's having himself a year. My question would be, will the real Cincinnati Bengals stand up? They go out, they beat the Giants and the Browns on the road. Not that that's a huge accomplishment, but then they come home and get just totally lambasted by the Eagles last week. Now you're laying 7.5, which I don't like that number. T. Higgins might not play. You've got a Cincy team that does great on the road. On the road, they're 4-0 against the spread on the road, but only 0-4 against the spread at home. You got a Raiders offense. You mentioned the Gardner is going to start for them. I don't like the Raiders offense, but what they've done is covered in the last 2 games against some pretty good teams, and they're actually 8-4 against the spread in their last 12. I don't like the numbers, so I'm gonna ride with the Raiders +7.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't entirely disagree on this, and we've discussed this over the weeks. Antonio Pierce, obviously linebacker, Super Bowl winning player for the Giants. He brings a real dog mentality to that locker room. And Gardner Minshew here from Wazoo, staying on the West Coast in his career, but traveling well to the East Coast. And I think a fairly noteworthy point here, outright win in this division in Week 2. at Baltimore. And, you're talking about the real Slim Shady. Burrow comes into camp, short hair, blonde hair. He should stop focusing on his appearance and start focusing on home ball. This is purely an abomination at Paycor Stadium. And I think another meritable point to taking the road team here, look ahead game, revenge game next week for Cincinnati at Baltimore. Coach officially on plus 7.5. I would certainly not talk him off it. Best of luck in this game. Let's dominate.
Chargers versus Browns.
Chargers at the Browns. 1 o'clock in Cleveland. Great game on our hands here. Tightly graded. Los Angeles laying 1.5 on the road and a total hovering in the low 40s. A lot of discussion. Official plays. Junior Brown officially on the Chargers on the money line, minus 125.
Yeah, I love the Chargers in this spot. I understand that the Cleveland Browns are coming off a high because they got rid of a sexual predator and got a former crab thief. That's fine. They can be as excited as they want. And I know it has nothing to do with the fact that I am a Michigan fan, go blue, and I believe in Jim Harbaugh. Sorry. It's really to do with the fact that Cleveland did not fix any of their problems. They just got what we call a bit of a respite. Their defense, who have been severely overworked because of the incompetence of their offense, just saw a bit of light at the end of the tunnel because they had a quarterback who, whatever you think of Jameis Winston, he is a professional quarterback. He knows how to make plays. He just has a problem with taking too many chances. And I think that's going to come to rear its ugly head. I think the Chargers are going to control the clock with their running style, and their defense is good enough to shut down the Browns. Give me the Chargers all day, but Shark, I'll let you guys give the guys a little bit more detail as to why you like this play as well.
Absolutely, and I'm not a Chargers fan, but in the offseason, I purchased this beautiful print because I completely agree with you. I love Jim Harbaugh, and I love this Chargers team. This is a very talented roster on both sides of the ball that was really handcuffed for 3 or 4 seasons by an incredibly mediocre coach, Brandon Staley. Insert Harbaugh, you're seeing the results very quickly. 5-2 ATS, 4-0 ATS as a favorite at open. And now you find them favored at Cleveland, which is very noteworthy given preseason expectations. Very strong line here. And you mentioned it. Cleveland's been terrible. But last week, Jameis Winston came on the field, was giving an incredibly inspirational speech to the guys, to the sideline reporter, to his religious capacity, to Eminem, to everybody. The guy is an energy box at the highest level. But off of a huge win against Baltimore, a division rival, a huge emotional high, now you have to come back against one of the best defenses in the league that does travel. Further on this, you want to buy low on the Chargers in a beautiful market spot where they are actually still 3-4 ATS last 5. And this is one of those spots where you find a great team that's coming off of a lackluster sample, mostly due to the fact that Justin Herbert was hurt. They will continue their upward movement here. It's a great spot to buy the Chargers and fade Cleveland. Take the Chargers on the road. The buy hat is engaged. Chargers official for Junior and myself, minus 125.
J.A. Cavaliers Pro Football Triple Crown. 3 NFL games for this Sunday. 3 straight, 3 two-team parlays, 1 week, $99. His Pro Football Triple Crown must go 3-0 or the entire NFL season is free. J.A. Cavaliers Pro Football Triple Crown. Link in the description below. Click the link now and jump on the money train.
Patriots versus Titans.
Patriots at Titans, 1 o'clock in Nashville. Not exactly a Super Bowl quality matchup here. Titans 1-6, Patriots 2-6. A lot of quarterbacks moving around. A lot of grease fire, disastrous probabilities here. But we want to give you guys a look in this game. Junior's here. Junior, what do you think about this one?
That was an epic intro because at the end of the day, this is basically a dumpster fire of a game. It's pretty rare that the two worst teams in the league, I don't know if they are, but they're at least bottom five, would go head to head. That being said, we are professionals, so we will give you a look. And my lean, I believe Shark is in agreement, is the over. A few different reasons for that. First of all, this total is insanely low, so let's just start there. These are two teams that don't have the greatest pass rush in the world. I would go as far as to say that the Tennessee Titans pass rush is futile. And if I'm going to judge Drake May, who Shark and I were researching, seems like he's going to play. If I'm just going to be fair and judge Drake May as a rookie playing behind, which might be the worst offensive line in the league, he actually looks pretty good in the sense that he can make throws. Like, he looks like a professional quarterback when he has time, which doesn't happen too often. I think in this game, because Tennessee can't get to the quarterback in any game, I don't really see why this game would be any different. 38.5 is a really no number, so the lean, it's not an official, would be towards the over because of those reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we say we want to give you guys looks on every game because people have office pools. They like to talk to their friends, and this really is one of those games. The over is the best look in this game by a mile. And we do think Drake May might play. If you go back to last week, he went into concussion protocol. In my opinion, the hit was not particularly violent. I actually watched it on replay. I was actually surprised he ended up in protocol. It looked fairly harmless to me. So I think he will probably take the field this week. And something we've noted since he became the starter a few weeks back, this Patriots defense has completely let down in his presence. When Jacoby Brissett was the starter for the first 5 weeks, very low scoring games. Belichick-style defense. The last few weeks gave up 41 at home to the Texans, 32 to the Jags in London, and 22 to the Jets last week in yet another over versus a Jets team that's not scoring the ball. So this Patriots team out of nowhere is an over team. And you look at Tennessee with Mason Rudolph, journeyman quarterback, gunslinger. They went over by a mile last week in Detroit. They're not playing any defense either. And I think this is what you're going to see this week. You're going to see young quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks. Defense is not playing focused football. The best look in this game is the over at 38 in Nashville. It is week 9. Cash this ticket.
Commanders versus Giants.
Commanders visiting the Giants, 1 o'clock in East Rutherford. The bye hat is engaged. Taking Washington on the road at -3.5. And, a lot of psychology in this game. Go back to last week. If you guys didn't see it live, I'm sure you saw it in the highlights. Incredible Hail Mary victory for Washington. Oftentimes when that happens, it's a letdown the next week. But if you actually watched that game, Washington dominated the Bears. Really shouldn't have ever needed that Hail Mary. And that's really been the story of this Commanders team this year in Jaden Daniels' season 1. 6-2 straight up, 6-2 ATS. When they win, they cover. And they are 4-0 ATS as a favorite this year. You look at the Giants. The Giants have had some buy low moments this year, but as the season progresses, it's very clear. Daniel Jones is not the guy. He has a bad contract for this team. Dable doesn't like him. And the Giants have been awful at home, going 0-4 ATS, 0-3 ATS in the division. And I think a really key point, the only time this year they were catching 3.5 points at home in the division, Week 7 against Philly 28-3. These teams did play in Washington in Week 2. Washington did win by 3. That game could have been a blowout. Washington kicked 6 field goals inside of 33 yards and sustainably dominated the Giants on both sides of the line. This is a heavy road line. I have Washington to win this game on the average by 8. Margin will come. Coach Rick in the house. He knows ball. What do you think about this game?
Well, you mentioned a couple of key points, and I don't have an official play, but if I were to to look at this game. One, I would look at Danny Dimes. You mentioned the troubles that he has had. He's actually gone under 210.5 passing yards in 4 of his last 5 home games. He's just having a rough time. You mentioned the contract. I don't expect him to be around much longer, but take a look at his passing yards total. The other play, you mentioned the 6 trips to the red zone and they come away with field goals. Washington gets in the red zone. I mean, man, they're not going to score 6 times. I think that would play into one of my takes would be take a look at Washington's team total. Right now I think it's around 23.5. I mean, they've gone over that probably 4, 5, 6 times. So I don't have an official play, but again, maybe Jones' passing yards total and Washington's team total.
Yeah, without question. And just to really emphasize that again, it's very rare in professional football to see a team that has the offensive firepower of Washington get in the red zone 6 times in one game and kick 6 chip shot field goals, 425 yards in that game. This is a pretty stout Giants defense, but this is a very advanced rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels and a very well-coached Commanders team for the first time probably in 35 years. Buy low on that. It's a generational buy. The buy hat is engaged. Take Washington on the road and let's cash this ticket.
Saints versus Panthers.
Saints at Panthers. Divisional football at 1 o'clock. Dropping an official play. The beauty of sports betting, making a grease fire game into a big one on this Week 9 Sunday. We're taking the over at 43.5. When you really start to hone in on this matchup, you're finding the 2-6 Saints getting Derek Carr back, which is absolutely crucial to them scoring points in this season. Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, no. Derek Carr, yes. And you go back to Week 1, probably not coincidentally for this handicap, 47-10 over against this Carolina team. Carolina is in shambles. They're the worst team in the sport. They're getting beat every week by double digits, and their defense is a sieve, giving up over 35 points per game. The Saints have been sitting on a bunch of garbage for weeks. They're going to explode, and Bryce Young, Carolina's second-year quarterback, embattled, will actually move the football in this game. Books like the over, moving the total up from a 41.5 Week 1 over line to 44.5 here. We expect 48 points. Bet this game to make it interesting. Bet this game for cash, quick, fast, and let's cash this ticket.
Broncos versus Ravens.
Broncos at Ravens, 1 o'clock in Baltimore. Baltimore off a loss last week at Cleveland. It was the Jameis Winston show. Let that be what it is. A bounce back probably coming, and we have Luke Shuey in the house for a prop. The show will continue for Lamar Jackson. You like his rushing yards over 46.5.
I do, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a bounce back spot after losing to the Browns. When Lamar loses, he almost always wins the next game, and he particularly takes that on his shoulders. He puts the team on his back. I think he runs extra in this game, and also let me tell you why. I looked to the Broncos' defense here. Their pass defense has been pretty elite. They rank 4th in the NFL, limiting passing yards to about 170 a game. So when Lamar drops back, passing lanes are going to be tiny. I think he's going to have to look to scramble and take advantage with his legs in this one a little bit more than usual. And the line should be, according to my analytics, about 50 to 60 yards here. It's sitting at 46.5. He's covered this almost every week. He averages 63 rushing yards per game this year. His lowest posted total is 40. I mean, for the line to be just 6 yards above his lowest total, that is value I cannot pass up on. And we have good history here. Last time I took Lamar Jackson's prop and gave it out as a freebie, that was opening night in the NFL. He ran for 122 yards against Kansas City. I go back to the well this week. I want you guys to cash again with us. I see him going for 60 to 70 here, maybe even more. So lock in the over 46.5 for Lamar.
Jaguars versus Eagles.
Jaguars at Eagles, 4:05, a late kick in Philadelphia. An interesting matchup. Jags traveling to a place they don't play very often. We got the prop master Luke Shuey in the house to drop some knowledge and a very contrarian take, fading Saquon Barkley in his yards per game. An official play on yards under 84.5.
Yeah, I figured, Shark, I thought this is an unpopular take. It's contrarian. I thought you might hate it. I think that the viewers here might think, wow, what an idiot. I'll get some shit in the comments. But one of my favorite things to do on the show is take sharp unders and fade the public. It's worked week in and week out. And so that's why we go Saquon under here. So his line is at 84.5 yards. His average on the year, he's putting up 109 rushing yards per game this year. Yet odds makers put his line 25 yards below average. That tells you something. They see a regression to the mean here. Jacksonville is sneaky on defense too, let me tell you. So they rank top 10 in rushing defense in terms of yards allowed. But if you dive deeper, it's actually even better than that. They've been behind in getting their ass kicked all season. They've been behind in almost every quarter of every game. So teams are running it a ton. When you actually factor that in, they are a top 5 rushing defense. I think they do everything they can to slow down Barkley in this game, knowing that Hurts airing it out. If he beats them that way, so be it. But they're on the road in Philly. For odds makers to put this line at 84 instead of higher, it's a sharp play. I love it. I love it. What do you think?
I agree, and I think you made a very standout point. When he's averaging 109 per game and the line is hovering 25 yards below, let that tell you a story. This is not space and value from books. Books are not giving away free money. Sharp analysis there. And one final point on this game. When you see the total here at 45.5, the last time these teams did play in Philly, it was Trevor Lawrence a couple years ago against Jalen Hurts. 29-21. That is 50. So books are moving the line total down for the game. And you guys that know Eagles football know this offense is highly dependent on Saquon to get points. So when the game total's coming down and Saquon's total's coming down, you're going to see less points in this game. And it is a great spot to fade Eagles offense, who did put 37 points on record last week in Cincinnati, albeit clustered late, mostly in the fourth quarter. That was an outlier. This is sustainable, intelligent conversation. Luke, the prop master, on an official in this game, Saquon Barkley under 84.5 yards.
And I love it. One last point, if I can, on my end. I think you hit it on the head again. So the under is dropping. Odds makers see that. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a defensive game than people think. My analytics have Saquon projected for 65-75. It's a lot less than people think. That's where he's probably going to end up, which is why I love the under. And everyone who's listening, if you haven't seen it before, unders can be sharp. You just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Ride with us again. Let's take Saquon under.
Bears versus Cardinals.
Bears at Cardinals, 4:05 in Arizona. Very interesting game on this Sunday. Chicago off one of the most excruciating losses you will ever see last week. A Hail Mary pass to close the game in Washington. Now you got to stay on the road. Bounce backs usually come when you get blown out, not when you play a tight game and lose in that fashion. Junior's with us. Junior completely agrees. An official play, Arizona, money line, -110.
Yeah, listen, I think the Chicago Bears are a little bit overvalued here. Not to say they're a bad team. I know Chicago fans, which there are a lot of them, are going to feel like I'm disrespecting their team, but they've got a young quarterback who improves with every single game, and I think that he's done a very good job in kind of not doing too much and kind of staying within himself as he learns the pro-style game. A game they should probably have won last week. But I think that this Cardinals team offensively, especially on their home field, can be prolific when they play against these young teams. And Kyler Murray disrespect continues to amaze me. Yeah, he's maybe not as good as we hoped he'd be when he was drafted, but he's still closer to being a top 10 quarterback than not. A guy who can get first downs at will because of his ability to run We saw him score a 60-yard touchdown, rushing touchdown a couple of weeks ago. And I just think that they finally are going to get some home cooking. 3 of their last 4 games have been on the road, and they still been able to put together some wins. Get this young team with young receivers back on their home turf. They eke out a close game. Give me Cards money line. No disrespect to the Bears.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. As I said, I think this is a really letdown spot here, having to travel off that loss last week. My official in this game taking over 44.5, and I think this is a great buy low in terms of points scored on the road for the Bears. As most of you know who are watching this show, Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick, did not look particularly good for the first few weeks. He is scoring the ball a lot better recently, but is actually 3-0 versus the road under, which I think is a great buy low here. Week 2 at the Texans, 19-13. A lot of points in the first half, basically nothing late. A lot of turnovers. You want to buy low there. Another under at the Colts, tons of yards, no points. And last week at the Commanders, tons of yards again, no points. And when you're analyzing totals, you really have to go to the box score to see how the games were played versus the final result. An under is not just an under. Sometimes a lot more points should have been scored, and that has been the case. It's also a great spot to buy low on Arizona home totals. 2-1 versus the under last 3, but opponent specific. Last home game against the Chargers, one of the best defensive teams in the league, 17-15 under, and another under against the Lions, a total outlier, 30 first half points, only 3 in the second half. Kyler Murray's balling. Both of these young quarterbacks will want to open it up against each other. A Chicago defense, which is getting a lot of press, will not travel well here to the West Coast on a funky kick time off of a loss last week. We love the over at 44.5, and we love the Cardinals at the money line. 2 officials, 1 game. Let's dominate.
Lions versus Packers.
Lions at Packers, a big-time matchup at 425, featuring 2 quarterbacks on fire and 2 teams at their peak. J.A. Cavalier joining us from a beautiful island somewhere on this globe. No matter where this man is, he finds a way to get on the air with the top picks and also bet David Montgomery. J.A., great to see you. What's going on today? Talk to us on this
You guys
pick.
already know. You say Detroit Lions. I say David Montgomery. And guys, you guys already know. As soon as this comes up every week that I'm on Montgomery's anytime touchdown, right? Like that's been embedded in for the last 2 years. I'm going to keep riding it. As cappers, we're creatures of habits. But I wanted to explain this handicap to people more so than me just riding David Montgomery. I'm actually not riding David Montgomery. This goes back, and the origin story to this goes back to actually Jamal Williams. And this is more a testament to Dan Campbell, the man, the coach, the player, the drinking coffee and biting kneecaps off. That rough, tough, smash mouth type football. David Montgomery is just the best version of a back in that style of offense. So I'm going to ride that to the wheels fall off because it keeps cashing. And yes, it's cashed in 6 of 7 weeks this season. The only week it didn't cash. And I don't think it would have cashed that week either because all of Detroit's scores in that game came from outside of the red zone. They were mostly on big plays. So that probably was an L regardless. But we'll blame the Bone Bruges regardless. Now, you guys have known, and I keep no secrets. I'm fully transparent. Now, people think that you're not transparent when you lose, right? I want people to understand one thing, right? First and foremost, the most transparent capper in the business. Now, maybe you don't go on social media and celebrate your losses. I mean, who the fuck does, right? But in every single post that I have on social media, I include a link on the website where we track our plays every single day. Win, lose, or draw. And I wanted people to understand that it's there. It's there every day. I don't care if I have I care if I have an 0-5 day or if I go 5-0. The point is the games are listed. As cappers, This is 365 days a year. We fully expect and understand we're going to have bad runs. The problem is the public doesn't expect the bad runs. And when you build up a name and a reputation like I have, 57% in the NFL last 2 seasons, those are real numbers. That's profitable. And I've always preached long-term successful ROI. And that's what you have to as a capper. But I'm not hiding my losses. I've been on a shit run. I come on the show, tell you guys flat out transparent. When I'm on a bad run, I'm on a fucking bad run. The games last weekend just fucking completely kicked my dick in. It all started with Texas and their team total on Saturday. They put up 21 in the first half, come out in the second half and muster up 2 field goals against Vandy's defense. This shit happens. There's so many variables when it comes to this shit. There's going to be ups and downs. It's all about peaks and valleys. But I will say this, at the end of the season, my numbers are going to be between 57 and 63%, as they have in the lifetime of this industry since I've started. But we're going to go ups and downs. Now, you also say, well, how can you get away? How do you go to these islands? How do you travel like this? It's fucking sanity. At the end of the day, this is life, man. Sports gambling is not life. Yes, it might be an aspect of my life and very much a piece of me and part of me and what I do. But you guys have to get out there and live. We're only around once. There's no telling about what's coming after. There's no guarantees of what's coming after, if anything. But you're here right now. As I end this show every week, make it count. And sometimes you have to get away. You have to step back in order to move forward. One of my biggest attributes as a handicapper is the fact that I never chase games. In Sunday, I was having a bad day early. You know what I did? Stepped away for the day. And my later card would have cashed, but you know what? I don't care. The sanity, the mental note that I needed to take in order to step outside and look into what was going on and where my misreads were more important to me. There's no question that I'll be making money every season, every sport by the end of the season. I'm not worried about that. That'll happen. As sure as I am as the sun's going to come up tomorrow, is as sure that I'll be profitable, at the end of this NFL season. I'm already profitable year to date. But stepping back sometimes is the best way to step forward. What happens when you start chasing losses? You dig until you hit fucking China, right? The point is you have to at some point stop digging. At some point you take a couple L's and if you're at your worst, you're at your lowest. And what's the best thing for you to do? Step back, gather yourself, collect yourself. Then you go back to work with it. Then you trust the process, you stay the course, and you stick to what's worked for you. And guys, Sharky, first and foremost, you know what? You hit bad runs. You got to tweet with people on social media. That's something that I've never had to do. I just don't. That shit just bounces off of me, But it happens, and these people just expect you to win every game, every day. And listen, I love the confidence in me. I love the confidence in me. And I want you guys to continue to have that confidence in me. You know what? But this is how you get to that point.
Yeah, without question. I mean, you're bringing up Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell inspiring Jay Cavalier to tell the damn truth. And we've said this for a long period of time, and we will never waver from these comments. It is a lifestyle endeavor. 24/7, 365, and I mean that literally. You got to be up overnight to get the right lines. You got to be handicapping throughout the day, and you got to be tailing games in-game with live plays. So for people that are tailing, do a couple things. Manage your bankroll. Understand that sports betting is not about being a glorified fan with hot takes. It's the numerical analysis of sports. Sometimes there's ebbs and flows. We stay the course. J.A. Cavalier joining us from vacation, staying the course with his play that hits consistently, as he said, scheme-driven with the Lions. David Montgomery, anytime touchdown. A great conversation. Let's dominate.
And I want you guys to remember, we love you guys. We do it for the community. We're out here doing this every day. Shark, you've been crushing it on the NBA show. Love the hosting. Appreciate you stepping in. I'm taking time out of my day here from vacation for you guys. Just appreciate the little things in life. Remember that life is way more important than any game.
Rams versus Seahawks.
4:25 p.m., Lumen Field in Seattle. Rams visiting the Seahawks. A lot of conversation in this game as the Rams surprised the Vikings last week with a huge primetime win, getting their players back. Puka Nacua, elite young receiver, and of course Cooper Kupp. We're looking at the over in this game, a collaboration play between myself and Coach Rick. Coach, as I said before, you know ball, you know the over in this game. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. Seattle's lost 4 of its last 5. Those 4 losses, they gave up 29 or more points. Mike McDonald's supposed to be a defensive guru, and I'm sure he still is. They're just falling apart, especially in the run D. Right now, they're ranked 29th in rushing yards allowed per game. Rams like to run the ball. Sean McVay loves to run the football because it opens up his play-action passing game. Now he's got Kupp and Nacua back, which you mentioned. I think he's going to get one of his offensive linemen back as well. That's going to bode well for them. They did look great last Thursday against Minnesota. Historically, they've had success against Seattle too. 10-4 straight up in the last 14. They've actually covered 6 of the last 7 as well. The Rams, they're notorious for putting up points. 10 of the last 15 have gone to the over. 6 of their last 8 on the road have also gone over. I think Seattle will contribute a little bit. I think they get one of their offensive linemen back from injury as well. So I think they'll put up a few points and push this total over 48.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm officially on 48 as well. And, you made a lot of great points. I'll jump off it here. You said the Seattle defense really is sieve. This is not the Legion of Boom from 10 years ago and Pete Carroll.
No.
Interestingly enough, this is Mike McDonald, the ex-defensive coordinator from the Ravens, not exactly translating in recent history, giving up 30.4 points per game in their last 5 weeks. And I think very specifically, only divisional home game this year, short week game, going back a few weeks against San Francisco in prime time, 36-24 over. Geno Smith at this point in his career, he's a journeyman. He is the full-time starter. He's a competitor, and he's a gunslinger. He likes to let it rip downfield, and their run game is very good. Nice buy low here, only scoring 10 points last week at home against Buffalo. And as you mentioned, the Rams are a road over team. And the Rams are 2-0 versus the over in the division this year. 1-0 on the road, 41-10 at Arizona in week 2, and 27-24 at home against San Francisco. These teams did go under twice last year, 30-13 in Seattle on a 44.5, 17-16 most recently, also 44.5. Books moving the line up to 48.5 off those unders. We told you the story. Books are telling you the number. Buy this over at 48 at 425, and let's cash this ticket.
Colts versus Vikings.
Colts at Vikings on Sunday Night Football, Week 9. Very intriguing matchup with Anthony Richardson last week tapping out on the field due to fatigue. Everybody's got a take on this. I'm not going to give you my psychological evaluation on this guy, but we do get Joe Flacco, the journeyman gunslinger, back on the field for this primetime matchup at Minnesota. Luke, the prop master with us, has an over in the market of receivers, Michael Pittman at 42.5.
I can't get it. I can't get enough of this. Everybody loves seeing Joe Flacco at this point in his career, just still slinging it. It's just entertaining football. So I'm in a really good buy low spot here. Honestly, by the time the weekend comes around, this might be on my VIP card. This is one of my favorite takes of the week, and it is Pittman over 42.5 receiving yards. Pittman's been one of the biggest disappointments, arguably in the entire NFL, at least fantasy football wise. He's just not put up the production anyone saw coming from a top 10 to 15 receiver preseason. And finally, he's healthy. He was battling injuries all season, playing with a shitty quarterback who really could not get the job done. And so I love him being paired with Flacco in this. So he's had 3 games with Flacco under quarterback, or two and 3/4. One of them, Richardson got hurt. And he racked up 22 targets, caught 14 balls for 185 yards and his only 2 touchdowns on the year. So with Flacco behind center, he's averaging about 60, 70 yards per game while injured. He's finally healthy again. I think he soars over this number this week. And I love to look at last year here too. So in Pittman's 16 games last year, what did he do? He covered this line in 14 of them. That's 88% of the time. Sign me up for that kind of value. 88% you're not going to find most places. And then my last little take on the gameplay, the expected usage rate should be high. The Vikings are clearly the better team here by eye test. Most people would agree with that. They should have a lead at home, which means Flacco's airing it out. Pittman's going to be on the receiving end for a majority of those. Again, lock it in. And I like it so much, Sharky. This is the ride or die this week. So if this play cashes, someone from the crowd in the comments, put your best comment. JA's giving you $200 if this cashes. Who doesn't want $200 of JA's money?
Make sure you guys drop your comments in the chat. This is an 8:20 game, a primetime special. And as Luke mentioned, this is the giveaway game. My only comment on this game, this guy Michael Pittman is a grinder. He is a dog. And last week, he only had 16 yards and 1 catch. Flacco was on the couch about a year and a half ago. He doesn't take this opportunity for granted. He will be throwing the ball all over the yard in Minnesota on Sunday night. An official from Luke, take Pittman over in the yards market at 42.5, and let's dominate.
J.A. Cavaliers Pro Football Triple Crown. 3 NFL games for this Sunday. 3 straight, 3 two-team parlays, 1 week, $99. His Pro Football Triple Crown must go 3-0 or the entire NFL season is free. J.A. Cavaliers Pro Football Triple Crown. Link in the description below. Click the link now and jump on the money train.
This has been NFL Player Performance Week 9, a fire show, a conversation, and it is an opportunity to dominate. I've been your guest host for this week, The Shark. Big thanks to J.A. Cavalier on vacation for giving us some life wisdom and an official take. And of course, Downtown Junior Brown, the prop master Luke Shuey, and Coach Rick. Make sure you guys head on over to whylose.com, YLOSE.com for free picks, stats, trends, scores, and more. Make sure you smash that like button to promote the show if you enjoy this work. We do this for free. We do this for the community. We do this out of love. Remember, yesterday is a memory. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Be in the now. Bet with the Sharps. Let's cash these tickets and let's dominate.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Suffocation, no